Okay, that was enough from the house. Now let's talk about the main topic,
Yeah.
coffee. Do you know where coffee comes from, originally? Which country?
I have no idea.
Colombia?
No.
No, not Colombia.
We are the second largest producer of coffee in the world after Brazil. Coffee actually comes from Africa. I'm talking about 3,000 years ago in a place that's called Congo. Congo, the people 3,000 years ago, they were nomads. They were traveling all around Africa, and they used to love coffee so much they were taking always the tree of coffee with them to the new places where they were going.
Oh, so that's how it travels.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So
They love coffee that much?
they were planting them and
Yeah.
spreading, okay.
So coffee is a tree. Tree produce some red cherries or yellow cherries or purple or pink. They have many different colors. They used to eat the cherry. They didn't know how to brew coffee like we do it nowadays.
But it still tastes like coffee?
Tastes different. It actually tastes really sweet. Coffee is a really sweet fruit, but it still have caffeine. So people still have that effect of drinking coffee, but they were eating the cherry. And they were always taking the plant with them till they landed in a place that's called Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, something happens that usually don't happen in the nature. Two different species get mixed and a new species was born. The name of that new species was Arabica. We all know about Arabican coffee and Robust. It's like the most two famous species of coffee.
Okay.
Actually, they are so different that Arabican coffee isn't commercialized or negotiated in the New York Stock Exchange market, and the other one is negotiated in London. So they're completely different businesses. In Colombia, we only work with Arabican coffee. It's
And
a law.
what's the difference?
I'm gonna tell you soon.
It's the law.
Yeah, it's a law.
It's a law. So you can't import the other stuff.
We can import it, but we cannot produce
Make it.
Oh,
We
interesting.
cannot plant robust.
Okay, okay.
If we plant robust, we just order you to cut your trees, or even worse, they won't buy it. You know that nobody will buy your product. It's
Yeah.
like wasting money.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
nobody will do it. And why is that? Because there's a law to protect Colombian quality of coffee. What's the main difference between both? Okay, first of all, where they grow, because robust grow from 0 to 1,000 meters above sea level, and Arabica grow from 1,000 to 2,200 meters above sea level. So that
Oh.
means Arabica grows in the mountains. That's another reason why we have a lot of Arabica here. But my question would be, if it was born in Ethiopia, why we call it Arabica? Arabica comes from Arabian, from Arabia.
For probably Arabs, people went to Ethiopia and thought it was good and they brought it and commercialized it.
Something like that. They were the best or doing commerce at
Yeah.
that time. Now I'm talking 1,500 years ago. In Ethiopia, they used to eat the cherry as well. And they used to let it grow in the wild. They never planted, they never harvested. And only the warriors, only the people that were going to a fight were able to eat it. Because they thought coffee was a god. The name of that god was Bun. And only warriors were able to eat that. Before they were going to a fight, of course, myths or histories at that time were really common. They didn't have internet, they didn't have a lot of stuffs. So they decide to start talking about the fighters or the warriors from Ethiopia. They were invincible because they were eating fruit from a god that was called Bun. Of course, that myth landed in Arabia, and the people from Arabia decided to go and investigate what was happening. They saw the coffee tree and they say, this is just a tree. But if this tree makes them invincible, let's do something really smart.
Yeah.
We steal the tree and we plant the tree in Arabia, in a place that's called nowadays Yemen. So they make the first official coffee plantation in Yemen. And not just that, they discover something more important. They discover how to roast coffee and then how to brew it. So they discover how to make the beverage that we drink nowadays as coffee. So that's why we call it Arabican coffee.
Wow.
But how did they think of taking a cherry and making something? Is it because they made
Yeah, I'm
tea
curious.
and so they wanted to do the same with this cherry?
That's a good question actually, because I ask the same question all the time. How much free time do you have to have
to experiment.
to experiment in a
And-
cherry?
Exactly, and make it
This
this.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a red cherry
Yeah.
that's really sweet. Then
Yeah.
you make something bitter, And,
So bitter.
And
That's why I don't like it.
yeah, you should try this one. This is not bitter at all.
I've never seen her drink coffee in my life.
You're gonna see it
Today,
But
today.
do you have any sugar
gonna-
and milk? Or is that an insult?
It's not an insult, but I'm gonna tell you why we don't do that here in this farm.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna get to that point in the history,
Okay, okay.
and that's what I tell you at the end of this story. You will try this coffee, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna like it.
I like it.
Yeah, because
I like it.
it's really different.
Yes,
How do the Arabs discover how to roast coffee? There is a myth, because it's unfortunately a myth, it's not true, but it's the simplest way to explain how probably that happened. In Colombia, we say that goats are crazy.
They're a
We
little
say like
crazy.
when somebody's acting like crazy, we
Oh.
tell them you're acting like a goat. So when you start thinking about that, you say, where do that come from? Why we compare the goats, the poor goats, like crazy with crazy people?
Because they're eating coffee.
Yeah, exactly. There was a goat shepherd in Arabia. His name was Kaldi, and Kaldi saw that his goats were jumping more than usually. They were jumping like crazy, and he said like, "Oh my God, what happened right now? My goats are crazy." So he started looking what's happening with the goats. They were eating the coffee cherry. So he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna try the cherry as well." He tried the cherry. He feels the effect of the caffeine. He feels really excited. He was like, "Wow, now I understand why my goats are getting crazy. This is really good." But I don't know if this is good or bad for me. So I'm gonna better ask the monks of my village if this is good or bad. So when he went to the monks, he showed the cherries. He was really excited. He was like, "This is the best thing I ever tried. We're gonna try the cherry later, and you're gonna see that's really sweet."
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
So for him was really interesting. But the monks started to think this guy has something bad. These cherries are probably from the devil. Now he's possessed by the devil because he's really excited. So they thought, you know what? This must be from the devil. So we're gonna throw these cherries to the fire. When they throw the cherries to the fire, of course the coffee starts to roast it. Yeah. And in case you haven't smelled fresh roasted
Oh
coffee,
my God.
that's really attractive.
The best smell in the world.
Yeah. So when they smell that, they say, "No, this is a sign from God that this is good. So let's take it out
no, but
from
what
the
if
fire." So when they saw the roasted seed, they were like, "What are we gonna do with this?" They were really good doing infusions. So they'd make an infusion, and that's how they discover how to brew coffee.
Huh.
Why is that important? First, it's a myth. It's not true. We don't know if Cali exists, but it's the simplest way to explain it.
Yeah.
And more important, they never write about how they discover how to roast coffee because they keep it as a secret. Almost nobody knew it that coffee comes from that fruit. They only knew the coffee as the roasted seed, and they keep it like that to keep the monopoly of the coffee industry. If you want to buy coffee, you have to go to Arabian countries and you have to buy it over there.
And they
There were
didn't-
no more options to buy coffee. That's why it calls Arabican coffee.
Okay.
Till one day, 500 years ago, one important guy that's called Clement VIII, he was the Pope of the Catholic Church at that time, he decided to try the coffee. And he liked it pretty much. He liked it so much, but he had a trouble. The trouble was coffee is from Arabia. In Arabia, they were or they
Muslim?
are Muslims. Catholics and Muslims 500 years ago, it's impossible. You know, it's like we even go to war for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was smart enough to say, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna bless the coffee. I'm gonna make coffee Christian. So coffee is
What?
now Christian.
What the? Okay.
So after wine, coffee is the second blessed drink in the world. So
Wow.
every time we drink coffee, we're drinking a blessed drink. Coffee was blessed, and for first time in history, people in Europe were able to drink coffee without problems. Because coffee is Christian right now, so we all in Europe can
Oh,
drink
before
coffee.
they couldn't. It was
They
like
couldn't.
prohibition for coffee.
Exactly.
Really?
So
Wow.
Because it was Muslim.
it was Muslim.
Oh,
it was a
because-
Muslim drink.
And then
Oh
he
my
rubbed her
God.
Catholic.
And one genius man was like, I'm just gonna bless it, and then that's all it took.
Then after that, immediately coffee started spreading all around Europe. Why is that? Pretty simple. With the entry of coffee, people in Europe were for first time in history as well able to drink something different than alcohol. Why is that? Because if you drink just water, you will die. So they
yeah?
only have the opportunity to drink wine or beer or another distillated alcoholic drink.
But they could drink water though.
The water
Okay.
of the sea or the water of the rivers, they were contaminated,
Okay.
and I don't know why they didn't know how to boil water and drink
Yeah.
normal water. They
So
thought
they-
they have to do some process to drink water. So that's why
They
in
drink-
Europe
Yeah.
they were drunk all the time.
Is it because it would kill all the bacteria because of the alcohol?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that-
Not because of the alcohol, because of the process that they have to do to the water.
But the alcohol would dehydrate you. So that must have been rough.
Yeah, that's why so many people die in Europe at that time.
Holy crap.
And that's why it
Wow.
was so easy to control the population at that time.
Because they were
Because
always drunk.
Oh my
They were
god.
always drunk.
This is blowing my mind. So
So when coffee arrived, it's the first
So-
time they were not drunk.
Coffee will dehydrate you as well. But it's easier just instead drinking a beer when you wake up was easier to drink a cup of coffee.
Oh.
Of course they have water in the mountains, but water was really strange or difficult to obtain. Of course they will drink water,
Yeah.
but they were always in risk of dying. So that's why they prefer to drink beer. Because when you drink beer, you will not be dehydrated. You will be actually hydrated, drinking something that's good for you. So that's why they would prefer to drink beer and wine. That keeps you completely fine. You were only drunk. That's it. After the
Wow.
entry of coffee in Europe, a lot of coffee shops started to open it all around Europe, starting in Vienna. Then they went to Paris, and from Paris to London, and so on. They spread all around Europe. But something really important happens in Paris. Have you heard about French Revolution? French Revolution pretty important because they used to have kings in France, and
Yeah.
after French Revolution they just killed them all. And the revolution was that they were tired of the kings. Because of coffee, that kind of revolutions were planned. Because the French Revolution was planned in a coffee shop that's called Procot, still being in Paris. If you
Wow.
have the opportunity to go to Paris, go visit
Yeah.
it. It's still open, and they actually have the hat of Napoleon over there because Napoleon wanted to drink a coffee one day and he didn't have the money to buy it, so he left his hat. So if you go over
Wow.
there, you will see it. It's kind of fun.
holy crap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, after French Revolution, because coffee shops were using like Facebook nowadays, you go in, you talk about everything, and then when you go out, nobody knows what was happening.
Yeah, it's kind of
That's what they used to
forum.
do. They used to go to Procot, they used to drink tons of coffee and talk about how they're gonna repair the country.
At least they were not drunk now.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just
And that's the thing. They weren't
super
drunk,
weak.
so they were sober. And coffee stimulates you to think. So they were started thinking and asking, who is this guy? Why is he the king? And why do I have to make what he says or obey what he says? And the king of England gets so scared about that he decides to make something that I'm pretty sure you know. He make a prohibition about coffee.
I didn't know about that,
I didn't
but
know
of
about
course
that either,
they
yeah.
did.
Close.
Closed
you
in
would.
one single day more than 2,000 different coffee shops in London. He said you have to close all coffee shops right now. No more coffee shops.
Oh my god.
Because we have the Indian colony and we have tea over there. So we have to drink tea. We have to drink our national product. We have to drink tea at 5 p.m. every day. So we have something
Oh,
that's
that's why
called
they
tea time.
have the tea time.
But what happens when you make a prohibition? The more you
Prohibited.
say
Yeah.
you cannot do it, the more you
wanna
want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the pirates of that time were the people from Holland, the Dutch, and the people from Holland saw a business opportunity. Say, there's a prohibition of coffee. People still want coffee. What about commercializing coffee? But buying coffee from Arabia is really expensive. We're gonna do something even more smart. We're gonna go to Arabia, we're gonna steal the coffee tree, and we're gonna plant it in Holland. But it didn't work because the weather of Holland is not the perfect weather for coffee.
Yeah.
But they remember we have a lot of pieces of land all around the world, including some other places in Africa, Southeastern Asia, and of course America. They have a small country that nowadays is called Suriname, and that's how finally coffee ended in Suriname. From Suriname gets spread to Venezuela, from Venezuela to Colombia, and from Colombia to all South America. So they spread the coffee all around the world.
Wow.
And I'm just talking 300 years ago. So coffee is actually recently just coming here to this place.
What? And we only hear about Colombian coffee.
That's because nowadays Colombian coffee is pretty famous because we have good quality. For example, the law that only allows us to grow
Arabica.
Till now, I have been only talking about two different species of coffee, Robusta and Arabica. Yeah, actually, I have been only talking about Arabica because the history of Robusta is completely different.